focus on employment, and that's when they shifted. They started off with some seed money from Matt's dad, and they built up a website. And essentially, for about the first 10 years, we were a marketing company. So literally, those salespeople back in the early days would buy the newspaper, and they would ring those people posting the ads. And you know, back in the days where people were putting all those employment ads in the newspaper, if you had one of those really big ads, that might be like $5,000. So we would ring them and go, "Do you want to put your ad online? We'll do it for free to start off with." And so we just had people just ringing and then putting them online. And eventually it grew. There's a famous story about the brothers being rung up one day because one of our biggest competitors was Monster.com, which is an American company, which Kerry Packer happened to invest in. Everyone remember Kerry Packer? And there's a famous story that the brothers tell about one day Kerry Packer rang them and said, "You won. You've beaten me, so I want to know a little bit more about how to invest in your business." Because the way online employment marketplaces work, and for most marketplaces, is that it's a winner-takes-all game. Because people only go looking at the place where all the jobs are, and people only advertise in the places where all the job seekers go. So if you're number one, you tend to lead that market, and that's where we are at today. But it wasn't until about 2010, 2011 that this organisation made a big decision to move from being this marketing company, which essentially just took job ads and chucked them online, and started to see itself as a tech organisation. So our sales team was huge back then, and we just had these couple of people in the corner like playing on computers. And then all of a sudden we said, actually, the organisations that are going to start doing what we're doing, Facebook, Google, Meta, all of these huge digital organisations, so we need to get better at tech. So that's where our dream of tech was born. And we've got one of the biggest, or the oldest AI teams in Australia as well, because we invested in that really early. We want to do more with the platform itself to be able to not just put a job on it, but help people to match. It's really interesting because my team, we do a lot of work internally on careers as well. So we did a lot of research, and we do research with external customers also. And it's the same problems that we hear everywhere, is that often people go, "I'm looking for something different or new or a change." They have we call it a career itch. There's this point you go, "I'm looking for something different." But for most people, what stops them or stops them in the tracks is like, "I don't know what's out there." So even if we go, "Oh, you might be interested in this," they go, "Oh, I couldn't do that." It's really the work that you do, right? Where you put ideas in front of people, but they're just like, "I can't see it." So being able to give people access to the information that will help them to make those decisions is often really good. So what we tend to do internally when we talk about careers with people is we say, don't think about job title to start with. Let's have a conversation about, what do you enjoy doing? So what do you get up in the morning and you go, if I've got heaps of my day spent doing this thing, I would be really happy with it. So for some people, that's working on really hard problems, you know, and using lots of brain power to do that. For others, it's talking to lots of people during the day and making new connections. So getting people really clear on what are you passionate about? What do you like doing? What could you do all day, every day, and not get paid for it? Not that we're saying that, but we just get them thinking about that stuff. But then as well, so what skills might you want to complement that? And so looking at some of those job ads can be really useful to help to understand what those skills might be. And then a big part of it is not just looking at those job titles, but go looking for the types of roles that are out there that might incorporate some of those things. And what that tends to do is, rather than, sometimes you look at career, if you look at it trying to narrow in on the one choice, there is no one right choice, right? What you actually want people to do is go broad, because then there's more opportunities, and there's a range of different options out there. So there was some conversation earlier on about pathways or entry-level jobs. That's one thing I was thinking we could have a quick conversation about. If you haven't, so here's the Seek website again, and everyone knows about searching for jobs. But if you come to career advice, this is where we start to use the data that we have about the current jobs online that can help people to broaden their search a little bit more. So here's my job title. What I can start to do is explore careers. And what it's trying to do is it looks across the website for different roles that might match with some of the key skills. What can be kind of overwhelming to people sometimes is the amount of variety there. So our taxonomy of jobs is got about 20,000 different data points. Like it's just so round. What we're trying to do is to make that a little bit narrower so it can make it easier. But what we try to do with these pages is just to give people some ideas of what could it look like. And then what you can start to do is to find some of those different, like what are the actual roles that are out there at the moment. So at the moment for this electronics engineer, there's, over 2,000 roles on the platform at the moment. It's got good job growth. You can do things like explore, compare salaries, those types of things. But what's really useful is to get young people clicking through to the job ads and starting to see what is it that they're looking for. Yeah, what are some of those skills that you can see? We talked about entry level roles on here, and what I might do, if you go entry level technology, and I might just put quotation marks around that, because if I put quotation marks around it, it helps with my search. It says I need to find that term. And you can see here at the moment I've got around about 261 jobs for entry level technology. Right now, not all of these might be a good fit, but if I was working with a young person around this, I'd probably say, well, why don't you go have a look at the kind of jobs and the kind of flavors, because jobs have so many different flavors, right? Like you got an accountant, like an accountant who works in a consulting firm is very different from an accountant who works in a not-for-profit or in a school setting. So the flavors of them look very different. So you got to educate yourself around what they look like. And I used to do career counselling with people who are being made redundant, and they would often say, "Oh, I want a total career change. I want to do this thing that's totally different." I go, "Do you know anything about what that role does?" And they go, "No, but it looks good." You go, "Well, until you know what a day in the life looks like, you're probably, you're just making it up as you go. So go and investigate it. Go and see if, who would you talk to? You can do a little bit of research here, but then noticing that your network is pretty powerful. So when you start to sit down and think, oh, well, maybe if I wanted to work for Channel 9 or I want to work in media, who do I know who might work in media? And starting to think about your networks. And sometimes it's not so obvious, but once you start talking to people and you share, look, I'm interested in this, they often say, oh, well, I'm not the person to talk to, but if you talk to that person, they might be able to connect you. So getting people to think a little bit, investigate, but the highest value activity for a job seeker is to talk to people, not to sit and do another search. It's who could you talk to? How could you find someone at this company that you could talk to? Making connections with people can make such a difference. So one of the best things you can do about supporting young people is getting them, I guess, comfortable with using this and using it as a research tool. Right? Go find me some of those jobs that are out there. Tell me what they're looking for. Notice the difference between how the job ad's written and what they're looking for a not-for-profit versus a big corporate. The other really great way for entry into jobs in tech as well is going through the back door. So I mentioned I used to work in banks. So my first, so I didn't leave school. I was asked to leave school. So I had the meeting in the principal's office with 4 other boys in my because I was repeating Form 6 back in those days, and they said you've missed too many classes. Like you can't pass this year. I was like, yes. So as soon as I turned 18, I went on the dole and spent my life at the beach until I got to this point where I was like, $126 a week isn't cutting it for me now. I need to do something. So I came to Australia because that's what you do. But that where I found myself into corporate was through customer service. So I got a job on the phones with the bank, and the one thing. So firstly, the person who hired me, she said, the only reason I'm hiring you is because you've mentioned here that you do volunteer work. So you must be a good person. I was like, oh, well, I'm glad I left that in there. I just thought it was a bit of a throwaway, but she said, no, that you seem like the right person to be hiring for this. So it was nothing to do with my skill or my resume. Well, it was a little bit, but it was then that ability to be able to make connection with people. So, and I think that's one thing that I know, having young people in my life, that is a bit overwhelming. So helping them to how can you have a conversation with someone and be curious about what they do. And so through that entry point, the other thing that got me to where I am today was I just showed up every day, which is, I mean, mind-blowing, isn't it? But in my first 3 months, I was the only person in my intake of 22 people who hadn't had a sick day. And my boss said that to me. She's like, I can't believe it. You know, it's like, well, it's not that hard. Like, just don't get sick. And if you are feeling a bit crap, take some Panadol. Like, let's go. But like reminding your young people that, you know, for the first part, it's like, yes, someone's taking a chance on you, and then just repay them by just show up. Like, and sometimes all it takes is just to be the person who keeps showing up, right? So for everything that you see today and some of the ideas that you've got, please do write those in the feedback forms for us so that we can have some of those things to think about following today, because I know that the team down the back think deeply about this, and I think we see huge potential for what we could do to connect more young people with some of the tools and things here that you can support them with, and that they can use themselves as well. Before we hear from our wonderful panel, just any other questions, comments, anything that you saw on the tour that you wanted to ask something on? We don't always have food all day, every day. Like, this is a bit of a treat. Like, when we get people in, we do have the lollies and the ice cream. We have this thing called Seek Kilos, which it's about 6 to 7 kilos that you do put on when you first start. So you do have to be aware of that. But the smiles that you see around the place, the connection that we have with one another, like, that's real. So, and I put that down to our founders, Paul and Andrew Bassett. They're people. They love people. They love nothing more than just chatting with people and understanding what makes them tick. And I think that has sort of translated into the DNA of this place as well. So we're very proud of our culture and we protect it furiously. But we also want to expose more people to the potential of what it looks like to be fulfilled and productive in the work that you do, because it's a lot better feeling than, geez, I've got to do this crappy job.